stay-at-home mom of 5 wonderful children, ages 19 to 5. Wow, I gotta get my composure. Oh. I have been homeschooling them for the past 15 years. I live, goodness, all right, y'all gotta let me get through it. I'm from a tiny town in Georgia of less than 3,000 people. The fact that I'm standing up here today in front of you is actually proof to me that the slight edge works. You see, I have struggled my whole adult life with fear of talking to large groups of people. Debilitating fear. Speaking in front of more than 4 or 5 people used to send me into a complete panic attack, and I would avoid it at all costs. And I have spent the past 2 years since being in Nerium working my way up at market parties and different things, speaking to more and more people, and actually submitting my story to be here today was my way of challenging myself and facing this fear head on. I've been married for 20 years. Most of that has been in financial struggle. My husband is a plumber and has worked himself to the bone to keep me a stay-at-home mommy. Getting up at 4:30 in the morning, driving an hour to 2.5 hours daily one way to get to work, and then coming home on the weekends and nights and weekends working side jobs, and oh, there's my family, side jobs, to keep us afloat and to make ends meet. We've been on food stamps off and on our entire marriage. That kept the food area taken care of, and Medicaid took care of our health care, but everything outside of that has always been extremely difficult. We have always lived in fear of overdrafting the bank account, always looking at every little penny. Eating out was a rarity, and when we did, I would have to tell the children, yes, you can eat that, but you have to share with your sister, and you have to drink water every time, and no, we definitely are not getting dessert. Our tax return every year was a big pinnacle. Some of you may be familiar with that. When you're in a certain tax bracket, tax return time is actually a happy thing because you actually get money back because you're so poor. And so every year that was what we looked forward to. Mark talked about the W-2 the other day. I wanted to share with you guys that my husband's W-2 for last year was $27,000 for a family of 7. My husband was asked recently to share his side of what life was like, and he said it's like that nightmare where you're running down a hallway and there's a door at the end of the hall and you're trying to get to it, and no matter how fast you run, how hard you run, the door just keeps getting farther and farther away. And that's what life was like for him. You know, he was never home, he was always working. Now don't get me wrong, we've always lived a very grateful life. We've always been very, very thankful for everything that God has blessed us with. We live a life of faith and live a life of gratitude. So 2 years ago, I was introduced to this crazy thing called Nerium. I had 0 experience in direct sales, never done anything like this before, actually used to run the other way when people talked about it. But long story short, we all have the same story. Tried the product, loved it, looked at the business, said, holy cow, this is different, this is amazing. We saw the vision and said, what if this could be what could change things for us? So we scraped together the $1,000, which was not easy. I actually laughed out loud when they first said the amounts of the packs. I certainly didn't have that kind of money laying around. But God provided, and within a couple of days I pulled that together and we joined. Our first paycheck the next week was $35. I was over the moon. We went on a date with my husband and didn't have to have it be his money paying for the date, so that was cool. Earned my initial investment back in 6 weeks, which was amazing, and then came the iPad. It came in the mail, and I promise you I was more excited than the children, and that's saying a lot because I have 4 girls still at home, and they were bouncing off the walls. Then we got to go to our first big event, which was Nashville. It was nothing like this. It was about 1,200 people, which at that time was very overwhelming for me. But my two oldest children were asked to perform and be the musical talent at that event. And so that was quite an honor and really neat. They have since both joined and become Yeppers, and my son is about to earn his Lexus. But one of the pivotal things in my Nerium journey actually happened at that event. I remember I was kind of right in that area, and they put up the picture of the Cabo trip, the resort that they were going to be going to the next year. And I sat there and I found myself choking up. And I literally left the room because I was so emotional, and I was trying to figure out what I was feeling and why am I feeling this. And it was because I didn't feel like I deserved that. Who am I to think that I can go on a trip like that? I didn't have the hope at all. But I came back in and I watched some of the testimonials come across that stage. And there was one in particular that actually stood out to me, and that was Anna Camp. I still have the video of her in my computer at home, and I watched her share her story, and I was so moved. I said, if she can do it, I can do it. If I plug in and I do this, I will be on one of those trips someday, and I will be sharing my story from stage someday. I gotta hurry up. So I went home and I earned my Lexus. I turned in my 14-year-old ratty minivan for a brand new 2014 IS250 Export. And I spent the next year working the business, just, incorporating Slide Edge. There were a lot of ups, a lot of downs. It did not happen overnight. Just worked the system, did everything like I was supposed to, and basically over the past few months I have rank advanced all the way to regional marketing director. I'm a hair away actually from 1 star. I'm going to jump straight from RMD to 1 star, which is really fun. And not only have I exceeded my husband's income, or doubled my husband's income, but I've just about tripled it at this point. And my monthly checks now rival our yearly tax return that we would wait all year for. It's coming in every month. So when we got word a few months ago that the regionals were allowed to go to Cancun, you can imagine how thrilling that was. But those first few weeks after, I had a lot of people asking me, are you excited? Are you excited? I said, I don't know. I don't think I can let myself get excited until I get there. I just still didn't feel like this was real. The whole thing, the past 2 years has been surreal. But anyway, I walked off that shuttle bus and walked into that resort and just was completely overwhelmed with gratitude. I spent the entire 5 days pretty much in tears because I couldn't believe that I really was there, and just it was so meaningful to me. So my why when I started this was to take the money monkey off of my husband's back. I told you he was working his regular job and he was working those extra jobs on the nights and weekends, and I just wanted to take those extra jobs away. Well, I'm excited to tell you guys today that last month, not only was he allowed to stop the extra jobs, but he is now fully retired from his job as a plumber. He is now a stay-at-home daddy. We have total time freedom. I get to wake up to his sweet face every day. We've been traveling, and as a matter of fact, he's right over there. I'm so grateful for Nerium bringing my husband home and bringing my family back together. Thank you all. Oh, change your life.